All right, a pleasant day to all of my students in Entry 13 Social Entrepreneurship. I am here to discuss lesson number 7, which is all about social capital. Now let's talk about what is social capital. Social capital is like the glue that holds communities together. It is not something that you can see or touch, but it plays a very powerful role in creating trust, cooperation, and teamwork among people. When individuals or groups trust one another, they are sharing information. At the same time, they are actually working toward the common goal and they are building social capital. In this lesson, we're going to talk about how relationships, networks, and shared values can become an important tools for solving community problems. Social capital helps social entrepreneurs connect people, build partnerships, create positive change, especially in places where resources are limited. We will also learn from examples like Reza, Deghati, and Krzysztof of Stanowski, who used social networks and trust to rebuild communities affected by conflict and hardship. Their stories show how that real change doesn't always start with money or technology. It often begins with people helping and believing in each other. So, what are our learning objectives or learning outcomes in this specific lesson about social capital? By the end of this module or discussion, my students are expected to analyze the core dimensions and characteristics of social capital and how they are related to the community development or how they relate to community development. At the end of the discussion, I'm expecting that my students can already evaluate the impact of social capital on individual opportunity, community resilience, and societal transformation using, of course, real life examples. And at the end of the discussion, I'm expecting that my students can already design strategies that build or strengthen social capital within a local or organizational context. Let's start our discussion on social capital. Social capital is the network of relationships, trust, and cooperation that connects people and help them to work together for a common goal. In social entrepreneurship, the subject that you are taking this semester, this is one of the most important resources. It is not just about having a lot of money again or a lot of power, but about having strong connections and shared values within a community. Social entrepreneurs use social capital to bring people together, to build trust, and to encourage everyone to take part in solving social problems. So instead of waiting for the help from the top, like government or big corporations, communities create change from the bottom up. And this is done through teamwork, empathy, and shared purpose. For example, gandang kalikasan, human nature. Of course, a good example of social capital in action is human nature, yung gandang kalikasan na madalas kong dinidiscuss or sinasabi or binibigay na example sa ating mga class discussion. The company behind human nature products, they are using natural and sustainable ingredients to make affordable personal care products or items. But what makes them special is how they are building relationships with farmers, workers, and local communities. They trust and invest in people by giving fair wages, supporting the local suppliers, and reinvesting profits into social programs. These strong connections, human nature doesn't just sell products through this. It empowers communities, it strengthens local partnership, and promotes environmental responsibility. So now let us talk about what is social capital. Social capital is not just about money or machines. It is about people or relationships. It is the trust, the connections, and cooperation among individuals and groups that help them work together and succeed. While financial capital is about money and physical capital is about the tools or the building, social capital is about the network of people who help each other. It's like having a strong web of friends, neighbors, and partners who share information, who support one another, and who work together for a common goal. That's why some communities grow faster or solve problems more effectively than others, even if they have the same amount of money or resources because they have stronger trust and teamwork. According to researchers Esther Villalonga Olives and Ichiro Kawachi in 2014, social capital has actually two sides: the group level, the trust and shared values that exist within the group, like teamwork in a company or cooperation in your barangay or honesty in an organization. There is also what we call individual level, the support and opportunities a person get from their own connections, like when a friend helps you find a job or a mentor gives you an advice. So social capital connects both individuals and communities through relationships, support, and shared purpose. Example, rags to riches. A good example of social capital because it is an enterprise in the Philippines that works with women artisans from local or low-income communities who are creating beautiful bags and home accessories. They are using the upcycled cloth, or this is like they're upcycling it. The company helps these women build networks. They also help them to gain trust. This is very important because you have to remember they are connecting with market that were previously out of reach, right? Which is good. And at the same time, because of this strong sense of trust, cooperation, and shared vision, the women not only earn income, but they also develop confidence and a sense of community. Now let's talk about key characteristics of social capital. As you can see, the first one is relational and collective nature. So social capital exists because of relationships. It is something that grows when people interact, when people communicate, when people trust one another. You can't have social capital alone. It develops when individuals came together as part of a group or an organization or community that shares common goals and values. So when people build good relationships, they are starting to understand each other better. They cooperate more easily and they're holding one another accountable. This makes communities or groups more united and effective. Example, sa isang student organization, the members are regularly working together, they are sharing their ideas. They also support each other. They are building strong social capital. Because of this trust and teamwork, the organization can easily plan events. They can easily solve problems and achieve its goals faster than a group whose members rarely communicate. Another is network density and strength. This refers to how many people are connected. This is what we call density. And how strong those connections are. This is what we call strength. So when networks are dense and relationships are strong, information spreads quickly. So it helps, or the help is easily available and the people can work together efficiently. Example, in a community of farmers, if everyone knows and trust each other, they can share updates about weather condition. We are being hit by many typhoons for the last few months. The planting method, for examples, on the part of the farmers, or market prices more effectively. So this strong and connected network helps them make better decisions and support one another during challenges, unlike isolated farmers who rarely communicate. So let's talk about dimensions of social capital. Social capital has different dimensions, or it has different parts that explain how people and communities build strong connections and work together. So according to Reza, Prasker, and Anzurj Nowak, these dimensions like trust, shared norms, reciprocity, and social networks are what make cooperation and social change possible, especially in social entrepreneurship. So let's try to look at each dimension in simple terms, like trust. Trust means believing in each other or believing in others. Like they will keep their promises, they will be acting fairly, and they will be supporting the group. When trust is strong, people are more willing to work together and take risks. Example, in a community project, members who trust each other often share resources. And not just resources, but also ideas without the fear of being taken advantage of. Another is shared norms, like the common values, the beliefs and behavior that guide how people act. They help everyone understand what is right and acceptable within the group. Example, In an organization where honesty and teamwork are valued, members are more likely to cooperate, right? And solve problems together. Reciprocity, like it means helping each other, giving support with the belief that others will do the same when needed. It builds a sense of mutual care and responsibility. Example, in a small business community, entrepreneurs might share contacts or advice, knowing that others will return the favor later. And of course, we have social networks. These are the connections and relationships among individuals or groups. The more connected people are, the easier it is to share information, to gain opportunities, to take collective action. So, example, through networking, social entrepreneurs can actually partner with local organizations, even volunteers, and even investors to expand their impact. So, let's talk about groups and networks. At the center of social capital are what we call groups and networks. So the connections that link people together, these can be formal groups like cooperatives, civic organizations, youth clubs, informal groups like your neighborhood gatherings, church groups, or circle of friends. These networks are important because they help people feel connected. They help people feel supported and empowered to take action together. So why networks matter? Because they create a sense of belonging. When people join groups, they feel that they are, or we feel that we are part of something bigger, that their voice matters. It also allowed the sharing of knowledge and resources. The members help each other by giving advice, sharing information, and offering support. So we also make teamwork and problem solving easier because of networks. It brings people together to plan, to act, to respond to community challenges more effectively. Example, Reza Deghati in Afghanistan, like a photojournalist working in a war-affected Afghanistan who helped women and youth by organizing them into a journalism networks. So these groups allowed people to share their stories, not just their stories, their experiences, and hopes through photos and media. As the networks grew, they connected with bigger organizations like new agencies and non-government organizations. And this gave communities stronger voice and helped them advocate for peace and social change. Now let's talk about trust and solidarity. Trust is like the glue that holds people and communities together. It is what makes social capital strong and lasting. Even if a group has good plans or resources, without trust, it will be hard for people to cooperate or achieve anything meaningful. When trust exists, people feel safe to share their ideas, to take risks, and depend on one another. This leads to solidarity, a feeling of unity and willingness to help each other, especially during difficult times. So why trust and solidarity matter? Because it encourages risk-taking and innovation. Like people are more open to new ideas when they believe that others will be honest and fair. Aside from that, it builds solidarity. Communities with trust are more likely to stand together and support one another in times of need. It promotes mutual respect. When people respect each other, cooperation lasts longer and relationships grow stronger. Example is Krzysztof Stanowski in the post-Soviet communities in Poland. After years of authoritarian rule, many teachers felt isolated and distrustful of others. Ayaw na nilang magtiwala sa iba. Social entrepreneur Krzysztof Stanowski helped rebuild the trust by organizing small group discussions on safe, everyday topics. Over time, teachers began to open up, they began to share ideas, and rebuild relationships. This new sense of trust and solidarity later helped them work together on educational innovations and become active again in their communities. What about collective action and cooperation? Collective action means people working together to achieve a common good. It is one of the most important results of social capital. When trust and strong networks already exist in community, People can easily organize, people can easily plan and take action to solve problems or improve their situations. In short, collective action turns those shared ideas and values into real results. So, what communities do through collective action? They start community projects like cooperatives, gardens, or small social enterprises that benefit everyone. They also solve local problems together, such as organizing cleanup drives, disaster response efforts, or health campaigns. It promotes social or political change by uniting the voices to communicate for fairness, for rights, or better community policies. Example is the bayanihan in the Philippine communities. In the Philippines, the bayanihan is a great example of collective action. It is a long-standing tradition where people volunteer their time, energy, resources to help one another. Neighbors help rebuild houses after the storm and work together to prepare for community events or join forces to clean and improve their surroundings because of trust. Because of community and cooperation, these activities become easier and more meaningful. What about information and communication? Information and communication are very important parts of social capital. When people in a community are well connected and trust each other, information flows quickly and effectively, helping everyone make better decisions and take action together. Social capital makes it easier to share knowledge, news, and ideas, whether through formal or informal means. There are two main channels of communication. The first one is the formal channel. This includes schools, media, local government offices, and organizations where information is officially shared, information is officially verified. Let's say, for example, sa barangay nyo, nagpo-post sila ng schedule ng vaccination drive or relief distribution. Informal pathway, these are everyday ways people share information like word of mouth, text messages, Facebook groups, or community radio, neighbors reminding each other about flood warning or job openings. So why good communication matters? When information moves freely and accurately, communities can respond faster during emergencies. So people become more aware of their rights, the opportunities, and even available help. New ideas and innovation spread quickly as people learn from each other's experiences. Example, Reza Deghati's project in Afghanistan. It used community media like local radio photography programs to spread information about women's issues, health, and education in Afghanistan. Through these efforts, people, especially the women, they are becoming more informed, more confident, and empowered to speak up. They seek education, access community resources. Now, social cohesion and inclusion. Social cohesion and inclusion refer to how well people in a community stay connected, how they stay united and open to each other. So this dimension of social capital looks at whether people use relationships to strengthen only their own group or to build bridges with others. There are two types of social capital. The bonding social capital, this is found in close-knit groups like families, friends, or small communities, builds strong trust and identity and even mutual support among members. However, it can sometimes become exclusive, meaning it may leave out outsiders. Example, for farmers cooperative where members help each other but are hesitant to include those non-members. So another is bridging social capital. They are connecting people across different groups like religions, ethnicities, or social classes. It promotes inclusion, tolerance, and access to new ideas and opportunities. Example, a youth organization that brings together Christians, Muslims, and indigenous youth to work on community projects. So now the question is why it matters. When bonding and bridging social capital work together, communities become more peaceful and understanding. People learn to respect differences while still helping one another. And there are more chances for collaboration, innovation, and growth. Example, the peace building in Mindanao. The peace building programs succeed when they combine both kinds of social capital. The bonding capital, which is strengthens trust within each group, the Muslim, the Christian, or the indigenous community, for example. And Bridging Capital connects these groups through shared projects such as youth leadership training, livelihood programs, the non-government organizations that bring young people from different ethnic backgrounds together help reduce prejudice, build friendships, and promote lasting peace. Empowerment and political action. It is when social capital is strong, communities don't just wait for help. They are taking action and making decisions for themselves. This is called empowerment. And it often leads to active civic participation. Empowered communities can vote and hold leaders accountable, making sure government works for them, advocate for change, course like reforms or new programs, participate in policy making or community planning, influencing decisions that affect their lives. You take charge of your own development rather than relying on outside assistance. In short, strong social capital helps people move from being passive recipients of aid to active agents of change. So example, Gawad Kalinga in the Philippines. It doesn't just build houses for the communities or the poor communities. They also help the residents become active citizens. People in Gawad Kalinga communities take part in local governance, environmental projects, and even entrepreneurship programs. So let's talk about the summary of social capital dimensions just simply by looking at the table in the screen. As I've mentioned, please try to look at the table, which is considered as the summary of social capital dimensions. So you can see that social capital is about the connections, the trust, and cooperation that allow communities and individuals to work together effectively. This table highlights 6 key dimensions: groups and networks, relationships in formal or informal settings that connects people. Example, women journalist groups in Afghanistan. We also have trust and solidarity, mutual respect and belief in each other's integrity. Example, the post-Soviet teachers rebuilding trust. Collective action and cooperation, turning shared intentions into real outcomes like community projects or disaster response. Another is information and communication, sharing knowledge and resources through media or networks like community media or Facebook groups. Social cohesion and inclusion, bonding within groups and bridging across diverse groups. Interfaith youth programs, empowerment and political action, active participation in governance and community decisions like Gawad Kalinga villages engaging in leadership role. We can say that strong social capital enables people to trust, to cooperate, to share knowledge, and include others and take action, turning communities into active agents of positive change. So let's talk about the impact of social capital. Social capital is the value we get from our relationships, trust, and networks. It affects both individuals and communities by creating opportunities and encouraging cooperation and helping people adapt to challenges. Example, in the Better with Water project, communities work together to manage water resources. Trust and cooperation among neighbors made it easier to share water fairly, maintain infrastructure, and solve problems, showing how strong social connections lead to better outcomes for everyone. And of course, we also have the impact of social capital on individuals. Social capital helps individuals by connecting them to resources, support, and opportunities that improve their lives. It gives enhanced opportunity. Being part of networks open doors to jobs for students like you, scholarships and collaborations through referral or personal connections. For example, student gets scholarship because of professor recommended them to funding organization. Risk taking is another, or opportunity risk taking. Trust in supportive networks gives people confidence to try new ideas or ventures. Example, as an entrepreneur starting a business, knowing your neighbors and family will support or buy from you is very important. So another is resilience. Social networks provide help and encouragement during crisis, making it easier to recover. Example, during COVID-19, communities shared food, funds, and health information to each other. Like they provide information. And of course, health is one of the most important aspects during those times. So what are the impact of social capital on communities and societies? Social capital strengthens entire communities and societies by promoting cooperation, trust, and shared resources, leading to better development and resilience. Poverty reduction, like communities work together. We share resources. We create opportunities for everyone. Farmers in Southeast Asia use savings cooperatives to start small businesses, even if we have no land or they have no land. Conflict resolution is another. Trust and networks help groups resolve disputes peacefully and prevent divisions. One does Gakaka courts rebuild trust after genocide through community-based justice, economic growth, reliable relationships and networks help businesses operate smoothly and grow. Small medium enterprises in Japan and northern Italy collaborate through tight networks. They are boosting productivity. And of course, disaster preparedness and recovery. Communities with strong networks respond faster and recover better from crisis. So after Typhoon Tino in Cebu, Philippines, the Philippine villages with strong local networks, they organized aid and evacuations efficiently. Uh, Social entrepreneurs and social capital. We can say that social entrepreneurs do not just solve problems. We build trust and strong networks in communities. So you are creating connections, encouraging cooperation, and fostering shared values. It strengthens social capital, which helps communities work together and thrive. A social entrepreneur who starts a community recycling program not only addresses waste but also bring neighbors, local businesses, and school together, building trust and collaboration that benefits the whole community. So, intentional builders of social capital. Social entrepreneurs don't just hand out solutions. They help communities create their own. By connecting people, encouraging dialogue, and involving everyone, they are turning members into active participation who will lead the change. Example, a social entrepreneur working in a rural village doesn't just provide new farming tools. Instead, we are bringing the farmers together to share knowledge, to plan joint projects, to support one another, building trust and strong networks that continue to grow even after the entrepreneur steps back. So from direct action to deep attractors, this is a systems perspective. Social change can be seen as a shift from old unhelpful patterns to new positive ones. Communities may get stuck in negative patterns like distrust or apathy. You know, apathy is hate. But when cooperation, trust, and participation takes hold, these become the new normal, leading to lasting transformation. Example, a village where people once avoided working together may gradually adopt regular community meetings and joint projects, creating a culture of collaboration that replaces the past apathy or past hate. So how social entrepreneurs facilitate this shift? As you can see, there are three. Social entrepreneurs help communities move from old, unhelpful patterns to positive, lasting change by first build social networks or building social networks. They're bringing people together around shared goals, creating trust and collaboration. In Afghanistan, women journalists formed peer groups that became safe spaces for networking and support. It can also be done by creating feedback loops. Small successes are celebrated, motivating more people to join and reinforcing positive behavior. Example, a successful community water project inspires similar initiatives in farming or microfinance. Sustaining momentum. Like communities gradually become self-reliant with cooperation and local leadership becoming the norm. So example, over time, a village maintains joint projects and mutual support without outside help. We also have the bottom-up versus the top-down methods. Social change can be approached in two ways, the top-down or the bottom-up. The top-down methods rely on authority, of course, leaders, rules, external resources to enforce change, while bottom-up methods empower communities to lead, to collaborate, and create solutions themselves. Social entrepreneurs typically use bottom-up approaches. So from bottom up, focusing on participation, trust, and local leadership to make change more sustainable. So instead of imposing a new school program, a social entrepreneur works with teachers, students, parents to design activities that fit the community's needs, and we wanted to make sure that this is going to be a long-term engagement and success. So let's talk about the bottom-up strategies, activating local potential. So bottom-up strategies are approaches to social change that actually start from the grassroots levels. We are engaging directly with people most affected by the problem. Unlike the top-down methods, which impose pre-designed solutions, bottom-up approaches emphasize co-creation, allowing communities to use their own knowledge, culture, and even capacities to develop solutions that fit to the context. This participatory approach, ensures the change is relevant, change is accepted, and change is sustainable. The core features of bottom-up strategies include community engagement and empowerment. Local people are not just consulted, they actively design and implement solutions and making them the central actors in the change process. Another, trust building. By respecting the community space, norms, and existing structures, the bottom-up methods cultivate long-term trust. We are strengthening commitment and ownership. We also have peer learning and dialogue. Communities are encouraged to share their experiences, experiment, and learn from one another rather than being passive recipients of expert knowledge. We also have decentralized leadership. Power and responsibility are distributed across networks or coalitions. We are enabling multiple leaders to emerge and support collective decision making. And the last one is sustainability and resilience. Because the change originates from within the community, projects are more likely to continue effectively even after external support ends. Example, in post-Soviet communities, Krzysztof Stanowski implemented a bottom-up strategy by organizing discussion groups among teachers. These groups became platforms for knowledge sharing and collaboration. Eventually, it evolves into a self-led civic movement that restored democratic practices and strengthened community confidence. This approach highlights that empowering communities to lead their own change not only addresses immediate issues, but it strengthens the social fabric, making them better equipped to face future challenges. But of course, let us not stop from learning what does it mean by top-down strategies, imposed or expert-led solutions. Like top-down strategies are approaches to social change that are designed and implemented by external actors such as the government, the non-government organizations, of course, expert institutions. Unlike bottom-up approaches, they often bypass local input and impose solutions based on outside knowledge or priorities, of course. We are talking about top-down methods that can be effective for large-scale or urgent interventions like national health campaigns, disaster relief, or infrastructure projects. They have limitations when applied to complex social issues that actually require community participation and adaptation. So these are the approaches of the top-down or the race of top-down approaches. The first one is dependence. Communities may have become more passive recipients, relying on external aid rather than developing their own problem-solving capacities. Of course, there is cultural mismatch. Externally designed solutions may not fit local values, norms, or realities, reducing their effectiveness. We also have the short-lived impact. Once funding ends or experts leave, projects often fail because the community was not fully engaged or the community was not fully invested. And reduced empowerment. People may feel disempowered or ignored if they are excluded from planning and decision making, undermining the trust in local initiative. So while the top-down strategies can deliver rapid results in certain areas, their long-term success depends on integrating local voices and gradually building community ownership or combining them with bottom-up approaches for sustainable impact. So now let's talk about the difference in practice, the social entrepreneurs versus the social activists. Social entrepreneurs versus social activists, as you can see on the screen, they're both aim to create change. But they just work differently. Social entrepreneurs, they use the bottom-up approaches. They empower community to co-create solutions. And of course, they encourage decentralized leadership because they minimize dependence on external resources and focus on building sustainable systems that community can own. Example, Reza Deghati trains women and youth in journalism. It helps them their own stories to tell. It helps them to open up their own stories and drive the change within the cultural context. Social activists, on the other hand, they use a mixed approach. They often combine top-down and bottom-up strategies. So leadership may be more directive with a focus on funding, expert knowledge, or advocacy. They aim to create policy change, public awareness, or mobilize participants. So example, the activist may push major reforms through petitions, protests, or legislations. Okay, why social capital matters? This is a very important question. Again and again, social capital is like the glue that keeps communities connected. It is built on trust, cooperation, shared values, and it helps people work together, solve problems, and support each other. Communities with strong social capital are happier, they're considered more resilient, and better able to grow and adapt even during tough times. So local businesses like Bayani Brew and sa Banana show how social capital works in action. Bayani Brew makes healthy teas from local harvested leaves, while sa Banana produces banana chips using community-sourced bananas. So they're working together with local farmers and vendors. They are building the trust, support livelihoods, and strengthen community ties. This shows how cooperation and shared efforts can lead to economic and social benefits. Just like how thinkers from Alexis de Tocqueville to Francis Fukuyama have emphasized the role of civic associations. Of course, we're talking about spontaneous sociability and mutual trust as the backbone of both democracy and development. So before we end our discussion, allow me to give you a quotation from one of the famous, Robert Putnam. What matters, or what really matters from the point of view of social capital and civic engagement, is not merely nominal membership, but active and involved membership. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of your day.